Hi, my name is Winsley, and welcome to my video on why the Ritualist hero class in Age of Wonders 4 is my favorite class in the game. Over the next few weeks, I'm going to be doing separate videos diving into the other hero classes, so I figured I'd start out with my favorite one. Now, there are a lot of reasons to like the Ritualist class, but the main reason is that it has a dispel that works on all negative debuffs in an AoE for very little investment on Ritualist heroes, making it so you don't need other sources of dispel in your army or from your spells. To illustrate this point, let's start off by comparing the Ritualist Overflowing Restoration to a Nymph's ability that dispels negative status effects in an area of effect, and to the Summer Fairy's ability that dispels negative status effects in an area effect. And then after that, we can talk about some spells that do the same thing. One of the best parts of Overflowing Restoration is that it only has a cooldown of 2 turns, which means you can use it fairly frequently, and it has a range of 4 hexes, which means you can hit units that are actually quite far away from the unit that has the ability. When we compare that to the Summer Fairy, it has a 3-turn cooldown, which means it has to wait an extra turn before it can use this ability again, and it has the same range. There's also the fact that you can get some temporary hit points here and some regeneration off of this skill, but the fact that you have a smaller cooldown is a lot more impactful. You also get, I think, 2 stacks of regeneration if you build out the hero the way I have here, and that's going to actually result in more hit points over a longer fight. And when we compare this to what the Nymph can do, the Nymph has a cooldown of 3 turns, which is the same amount of cooldown that the Summer Fairy has to deal with, but its range is a little bit shorter. It automatically grants 2 regeneration, which makes it a little bit more like the Overflowing Restoration I have on this Ritualist than the ability that the Summer Fairy has here. There are 2 early game spells that can dispel negative status effects in an area. The Anti-Magic Tincture used to be able to dispel all negative status effects on units in an area, but now it can only remove 2 negative status effects, and I think that seems pretty balanced given that you can get this from a tier 1 tome. Soul Overflow is something that you can get from a tier 2 tome and is a lot better than Anti-Magic Tincture because it can just remove all negative status effects. It also grants Strengthened as well as a little bit of extra HP to units that already have a lot of HP, and one advantage of using spells is that you don't have a cooldown associated with this. You can use this spell 1 turn and then the next turn, and if you have Wizard Kings, you may be able to use it twice in 1 turn to remove a lot of status effects. It is relatively expensive. 20 casting points isn't nothing, and there is a soul cost associated with this and a mana cost associated with Anti-Magic Tincture, so keep that in mind when you are considering these options. It is worth mentioning that once you get your dragons to level 12, they can upgrade their dragon breath so that it can dispel negative status effects in a pretty large AoE. If you take the cone upgrade on the breath, they can affect a lot of friendly units with this healing ability that also dispels their negative status effects while also attacking the enemy and potentially applying your own negative status effects. Generally speaking, this is a very strong dragon breath, but if you're picking this dragon breath at level 12, that means you're not picking one of the other dragon breaths, or if you are not playing a dragon, you're not picking one of the other very powerful hero signature skills. I have been hearing recently from members of the multiplayer community that you really want at least 1 Ritualist hero in your armies for manual combats against other players, and having 2 is better than having 1, because if you use this ability on 1 Ritualist, that means you won't have to wait 2 abilities to have access to another Overflowing Restoration on the other hero. and generally that's going to be very valuable. I have found in my personal battles using the skirmish mod that I have a lot more success when I use 2 Ritualist heroes and I just cycle through their abilities. Like this one, for example, I may want to start off a combat with Conjure Wild Growth Swift to just passively regenerate some HP in my units if they're a little bit beat up from previous fights, or if the enemy hits me with a army damaging spell, then I can use this to get a little bit of HP back on my units. And one cool thing about that is it actually leaves you with an action point afterwards that you can use on the overflowing restoration if you wanted to, or if say there were some dead enemies near your unit, you could bring them back for some very good action economy. This sometimes brings in units with 3 actions, and applying decaying using those zombies is very nice. There's also the option that you could be using astral wards to protect a single unit before they run towards the enemy aggressively. I'm a pretty big fan of placing them between me and my enemy so they have less opportunities to pick at my unit, and then warding the only unit that I want to move forward, essentially giving them 25 more HP, or it's kind of like having 25 more HP, but it protects them a little bit more than that because it applies the defenses on this unit. So as you can see here, this guy's actually a lot safer than he would otherwise be because of the Astral Ward. And then there are other abilities on here that I didn't pick, like the summon unit abilities. And then of course there is coordinated command. If you didn't take a dragon, you could take the coordinated command ability, which is a free action that gives actions to non-hero units, and that's just a lot of value. While you can build your heroes to be the units that deal damage or tank, I generally have found that I really like having at least 2 Ritualist heroes and having the rest of my army apply damage and try and tank for these units so that they can just stay on the battlefield and keep doing their abilities over and over and over again. One really neat thing about overflowing restoration and Ritualist heroes is that the AI uses it quite effectively in auto combat, which means you can go around the map farming a lot more of these fights a lot quicker because your units won't need to take time to heal up after fights. Let's observe a few auto combats to showcase what I'm talking about here. Alright, let's see what the dragon's gonna do here. We can turn up the speed of the animations. Starts off with a little heal. And yeah, the fight seems to be going pretty well. Already taking out 2 of their units, and whoever else gets hurt here will probably be able to regenerate that damage pretty quickly. Not that it's going to matter, this fight's going to be over pretty soon. But yeah, just being able to start off with a heal that not only heals up the damage that was on the units, but applies regeneration, allows them to just stay very healthy for quite a long time. Let's set up this next fight so it's not in my favor as much as that last one. We'll drop this unit, and you know what? Yeah, let's actually drop this other unit and see how these 2 fare against 5 units in an auto combat. The AI seems to think that this should be a pretty close fight, and we're actually able to win this fight without losing much HP. Let's actually take a closer look to see how that happened. Actually not put on the fastest one because I think this is going to be a much more interesting fight. Yeah, he starts off by healing not just the other unit but applying regeneration to himself. That's going to be very good for the combat, and they don't have a very good position to engage from. They're not going to be able to get a lot of their units into melee as long as the dragon sits in a smart spot. And they're getting a nice dragon breath there, okay. Pretty straightforward. I think we can speed that up. Yeah, they're able to get 3 of them into position to attack, and this guy is just wasting his turn. And yeah, even though this guy is kind of beat up, the regeneration was able to keep him from taking damage from the only unit that could hit him, and then this guy just attacks the dragon who's already regenerating instead of attacking. Yeah, just put more regeneration down. You don't actually need to do any damage. You're fine as just a Ritualist hero here. So as you can see, that can allow you to clear the map very efficiently. Only using 2 units to clear out a node like this is very efficient. And if you haven't watched my video where I used this dragon to clear out Silver Wonders and Golden Wonders all by themselves, you only really need to get a Ritualist dragon to level 12 before they can start clearing locations like this Gold Wonder here. If we just go through the motions of auto combating into this, I think we'll see that we take a lot of damage, but we're able to clear out this location, I think in large part due to the fact that they are weak to blight damage. My dragon deals blight damage, and we also had the Shadow Dragon transformation, but the healing that you get from the Ritualist class is not nothing and helped clear this location quite a bit. And yeah, that's everything I had for you in this video. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you around. Have a good one.